How's it going, guys? Cody, guys, back again, dropping yet another video. Right, guys, you saw me drop a video last night about Domenyk Noonan. I addressed the situation that everyone wanted me to address. People going on and on and on. I addressed it. It's in the video. It's in the last video that I dropped. Check it out. It's got about 1,700 views in 24 hours. I expect that to keep going up. Anyway, so for those that don't know who Domenyk Noonan is a notorious gangster from here in the city of Manchester. Carved out his own reputation, stupid amounts of convictions, spent most of his adult life in prison, and he still remains there to this day. If you watch the video below, you'll see why. Anyway, for those that don't know, I was in and around Dominic for several years. The police like to paint a picture that I was like his right-hand man. I don't say that. That's what the police tried to paint it out, and that's the way it was painted out in the documentary that, again, is down my timeline. There's 6 parts. They're all there, guys. Feel free to view them at your pleasure. They've been viewed widely. Yeah, so that's that. So obviously one of the situations when I was around Dominic was the big wheel protest. Now people are going to say, what's the big wheel? Like, the big wheel is Manchester had its own version of the London Eye, right? Which, to be honest, was a 250-foot wheel with pods. There was like capsules. People would pay to go in them, and you'd view the city of Manchester. It was on Piccadilly Gardens here in the city of Manchester, and it was a big tourist attraction as well, as crazy as that sounds, because I don't know how high up you could see and what you could see once you got up in the big wheel. But anyway, so I'm going to go into the reasons why Dominic climbed the wheel, why the protest took part, and what we were trying to achieve. Now, obviously, I was involved with Dominic for several years and stuff, and what it was he was in between addresses. Like I said, they put him in a probation flat, the probation said he had to live in a bedsit on the A6 in Stockport, going towards like Hazel Grove way, right? Then he was living in Coke Street Coke Street West, sorry, in Cheetham Hill, just off Leicester Road. Like I say, and then he was in Congleton a lot. Anyway, cut a long story short, right? So Dominic was on licence for a firearms offence from several years ago, where the police tried to say that Dominic travelled to the northeast and there was a compartment within the engine of this vehicle, and there was a revolver and several rounds. Dominic got convicted, ended up in prison, right? It was on licence, yeah? You serve your time in prison and you spend the rest of it on licence, right? And now you've got top-up supervision and all the rest of the shit that comes with it. Anyway, so probation were on his case, He had very stringent license conditions, and the police were on him, and police were surveilling him. Very, very high-value target of the local police, Greater Manchester Police. There's also information that MI5 and MI6 were also looking at Dominic as well. He had very strong Republican ties, and he was very open about that. Anyway, so strong fucking probation were on his case, stringent fucking every mobile phone they had to have the number of. They wanted the IMEI number, they wanted vehicles so they could put in the VINs or the vehicle registration numbers into the ANPR so they could locate where he was going. If he was leaving anywhere in Manchester, we'd have to tell them where he was going. You get the picture. Anyway, sometimes we'd travel on public transport, sometimes we'd be in a car, we'd be using 40, 50-mile radios, we'd change the frequency regularly because we knew we had to be, when you're involved in criminality, you've got to be forensically and digitally aware, and you've got to be conscious of police tactics, 1,000,000%. I always say when it comes to crime, fail to prepare, prepare to fail, right? Anyway, so we was here, there and everywhere, right? So we were spending a lot of time in Congleton at the time. Congleton's down towards Crewe. What we'd do, sometimes it was me and Dominic, sometimes it would be Dominic and the lads. And like I said, we'd go to Piccadilly Station, we'd get the train down to Congleton. Dominic always kept saying to me, I know that probation are going to recall me at some point because the police want me off the streets, and obviously the police and probation piss in the same pot, right? And we knew it was inevitable that it was going to be recalled to prison, right? But obviously every day that took on and every week, right, it was like a week closer to his license ending, and they didn't have that fucking hold on him anymore. Anyone that's been on license will know what I'm talking about. Do you know what I'm saying? Anyway, so we go down to his probation was in Longsight, right? So we go and see probation, then we get off, blah, blah, blah. We headed down to Congleton, right? And when we was on the train, right, Dominic kept saying, we was on this train, and we've been on this train a couple of times now, yeah, over the course of a few days. And as we was going down the train, yeah, towards Congleton, as we was leaving Manchester, we saw a building site near Odsal, right? And he said, listen, Cody, he said, if probation don't recall me when I'm in the office, right? And I'm like, they ring me and tell me I've got to come in or something, right? They're going to recall me or whatever. He said, and I get chance, he said, I'm going to climb up that crane there. Now, the crane was in the middle of a building site. The building site was secure. There was like a security sort of gate thing at the bottom of it. It was all things so you couldn't climb the crane, yeah. And it was going to be heavily padlocked, right? And obviously it was going to, you're talking, if it was in the day, there was going to be workmen there. So I don't think it was viable that it was ever going to get access to this crane. And I said to Dom, I said, no. I said, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's not going to get attention. Yeah, you at the top of a crane, but it's going to be like a fucking dot in the sky. They're not going to see it. And apart from the train and stuff like that, it's set back. It's off the Mancunian way. You understand? Like, nobody's going to see me. Yeah, mate. Anyway, we go to Congleton. We do whatever we was doing in Congate. We came back to Manny, right? This night, yeah, we was walking. We left Piccadilly Station, just me and Dom. We've headed down towards Piccadilly Gardens, yeah. Now, Dom was on the phone like he always was. He spent his fucking life doing this. If they made a Domenyk Noonan doll, it would be like this. Anyway, we've gone past the big wheel. Now, the big wheel, like I say, big 250-foot structure in the city centre of Manchester, right, for the tourists and stuff, right? It was late at night here, right? As we're walking past the wheel, right, I'm just scanning and having a nosy at the wheel, right? And then Dom's was on his phone. And as we walked past it, I looked back, right, and I saw a service ladder, right? Now, the service ladder was actually, like, suspended, like, a quarter of the way up the wheel. So, right, in my head, I'm thinking, get onto a pod. The pod's where the people, like, stand. Get onto a pod, get onto the metalwork, bam, straight up the ladder, you're on the wheel. Because obviously I've got in the back of my mind, Dominic's going on about climbing this crane in the middle of a building site near Odsal Estate in Salford, yeah, mate. So I'm looking, thinking, this is fucking ideal. It's central. If we did it in the daytime, right? Like I say, if probation recalled him when he was in the office, right? You've not got a chance because they just fucking, they wait for the police to turn up, do you know what I mean? It's cameraed up and everything. You can get off if you want, but like I say, I didn't think we was going to get the opportunity to do it. Anyway, so I've knocked Dom. I said, yeah, Dom. I said, tell me you'll ring him back. So he says, right, so I'll ring him back. Comes off the phone. I said, listen, look here. Look at the service ladders there, all the way up the wheel, yeah. If we get a chance to do a protest, right, at police harassment and everything, and probation and everything, we do it here, in the daytime, if we get a chance, get up the wheel. High platform, stop Manchester. I said, if you climb up that, they're going to close the wheel. They're going to close all the businesses. They're going to put a containment on. We'll get onto the news desk. We'll ring everybody we ring. We'll make it a big fuss, yeah. He said, right, you're on. So that was it, yeah. So anyway, a few weeks passed and stuff. Dom was still getting fucking, probation was still being funny with him. Police surveillance was still on him. It was constant. It was non-stop. It was annoying. And it was fucking wrong, to be honest. Like, do you know what I mean? We wasn't even up to anything. There's no criminality taking part. We'd sort out the odd problem here and there, but like I say, that was it. But trouble followed Dominic around. Anyway, I was actually at home, right? I get a phone call from Dom. He said, probation have rang me, right? He's had his last meeting with probation. He had a meeting once a week, right? He'd had his last meeting. He had 2 days left of his license, guys. 2 days left of his license, yeah. He rings me. He said, probation have rang me. I had my other last appointment the other day. He was there. I said, yeah. He said, well, they just rang me, told me to come in. If the police see me, they're going to arrest me. They're taking me back to prison. I'm being recalled. The reason he'd been recalled, and they wanted to recall him, is apparently, right, he had an argument that where he was living in Cheetah Mill with a lady there, it was just, there was an argument over the washing up. It's documented. She said he couldn't live there. He wanted to stay at his mates up in Stretford. These people turned police informers and put us all in prison, put several people in prison. Scumbag police informing bastards because they couldn't handle jail. Anyway, so if he went back to the property where the woman said he couldn't live, right? This was how Dominic's catch-22. It was between a rock and a hard place. Goes back, if he would have gone back to the address in Cheetah Mill on Coke Street, right? She would have said, you can't stay here. Dominic would have been done for fucking harassment, or they would have tried to do him for something, right? So if he stays at his mates in Stretford, right, like I say, police informers, we didn't know there was police informers at the time, then he's in breach of his licence conditions. You see what I'm saying? Awkward position. Anyway, So they said, look, you want to stay somewhere else. We're not letting you. We're recalling you for the last 2 days of your license. He said, you're going to recall me? I'll give you something to fucking recall me for. Right now, he wasn't with me at the time. I was at home. So he rings me. He said, right, listen, the plan's on. Now, at the time, Dominic had part of a business. He was 50% in on a car wash at the side of Piccadilly Station, right? It's no longer there. It's been knocked down now. But like you've got the ramp going up to the station, well, just to the left of that, at the back, there's a car park. There used to be a car wash there. So anyway, we arranged to meet there. So I got hold of the boys, yeah, Rick and Mike, yeah. They came and grabbed me. We get to the car wash. We all link up there. We're all there. Me, this police informant fucking father and his kids, yeah. We didn't know these police informers at the time, obviously. Dominic's there. Rick and Mikey are there, right? And then Dominic loaded up a bin liner because he obviously had a stake in a car wash of sandwiches, drinks and stuff. Because we was doing that, we was going to take over the big wheel, we was going to take it over, and we was going to stop Manchester, yeah, mate. So anyway, so we've got the sandwiches, we've got the drinks, Dominic's diabetic, right? He's got his insulin on his belt, on his waist, on a little pouch thing, yeah. Dominic puts his hood up, yeah. He's like this. We'll go through the city centre of Manchester. If the police see him, they're going to get him, yeah. So Dominic's like this, yeah. We're walking through the city centre, right? Walking through the centre of Manchester, right? Walking down the gardens. Dominic's like, I'm quite tall, so I was at the front. Dom was behind me. We were just walking through the city centre. He had his head down. He had this black hood all over his shoulder. We've gone onto the gardens, right? We've all stepped back. We're looking at the big wheel. The big wheel's going round and thinking, rah, how are we going to do this? So we stood back and we thought, if we approach the wheel, right, they'll stop the wheel and they'll be thinking we're getting on, so they'll stop it, yeah. Because the person that's controlling it is the person that's taking the money. So we thought, right, so we tried to do a dummy run and the wheel carried on going. So we stepped back and it was like, right, together, right, in a line, go up, he's paying, right. As we step towards the pod, we'll say the last man's paying. They'll stop the wheel. We'll then boost Dom up onto the pod. Once Dom gets onto the pod, he just needs to get onto the metalwork and then straight up the ladder. Like I say, the ladder, guys, it wasn't like at ground level. It was like a quarter of the way up the fucking wheel. So we had to get onto the pod, onto the metalwork, and then onto the ladder. I'll put a link in the description below for that video, and I'll also, it's also like 2 videos down as well. So feel free to check that out. Anyway, so we've all walked through, right? And then I was going to boost Dom up because I was the tallest. So Dom stepped through. I boosted him up. We passed him with a black fucking double bin liner of sandwiches and drinks and stuff, right? Dom puts it over his shoulder, climbs onto the metalwork, he's got this bag on his fucking shoulder. He's climbing up this fucking ladder. Dominic's scared of heights, right? Like I said, this is how impulsive it was. We wanted to make a scene, yeah. And the best place to do it for us was in the centre of Manchester on a busy day. I think it was a weekday, if I remember correctly. So Dominic's climbing up. We stepped back then. Right, we had a banner out and everything saying "Free Domenyk Noonan" and all this stuff. Right, we're shouting. You can hear on the video that's down the timeline. The police informer shouting, "Domenyk Noonan, go on, Domenyk Noonan! Police harassment of Domenyk Noonan!" Right, Dominic's climbing to the top of the wheel. As he gets halfway up, right, the bag's holding him down and stuff, right? And obviously, the higher you get, the more wind you get. He thought he was going to drop the bag, so there was a ledge, right, like a fucking fire escape ledge or something. He put the bag on the ledge, carried on climbing. Guy's scared of heights, you understand? 125 foot in the air. The wheel's 250. The axis is 125, yeah, fucking feet in the air. So Dominic's climbing. What we did though, yeah, before we'd set off to meet Dom in Manchester, right, in town, right, I fucking rang the local paper and I spoke to the crime reporter there, John. I said, John, listen, do you trust me? He said, yeah. I said, right, get a photographer onto Piccadilly Gardens. I can't tell you what I'm doing because you're duty bound to tell the police. And I said, just trust me, be there, get a journalist there, be there and get a photographer there. Trust me, I can't tell you anymore. He said, right. It was like, so we dropped the conversation, yeah. We've obviously, like I said, Dominic's now climbing the wheel. We see the photographer from the local paper, from the Manchester News. He's snapping away on a long lens, taking shots, yeah. Dom's climbing up the fucking wheel. Dom then climbs into the axes of the wheel, right? You've got to think, guys, you've got a man that is scared of heights, right? He's climbing up there in protest at police harassment and the way that probation are trying to recall him for the last 2 days of his license, yeah? He's on the axes of the wheel, right? People start to gather. We're all pointing, shouting, making a fuss because people are nosy bastards, aren't they? So everyone's like looking like, fucking hell, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Domenyk Noonan sat on the axes of the big wheel, right? Social media went and blew up. Yeah, it was trending on Twitter. journalists were running it, local, national. Anyway, like, we was ringing news desks, and I was like, right, I had a load of number for all the news desks in the UK, radio, local news, fucking national news, Grenard Reports, fucking Northwest Tonight, radio stations, local, national news, everything, bam. Rang all these news desks, right. Domenyk Noonan, notorious gangster from Manchester, was arrested at the height of the riots, been arrested over 6 gangland murders but never convicted, spent most of his adult life in prison, fucking been on films and everything else, blah, blah, blah. He's on the fucking wheel. In harassment, at protest, at police harassment and probation, trying to recall him for the last 2 days of his thingy, right? So I'm ringing all the news desks, patching them through to Dominic, yeah. Dominic didn't have call waiting on his phone, he had a little basher phone, yeah. His phone's fucking ringing up, he sat on the wheel, clutching this like fucking weather fucking vane thing that was turning round, clutching onto that, 125 foot up in the air, doing interviews, right. One of the interviews, right, actually won an award, right. Because Dominic's film was called A Very British Gangster. Now, Michelle Poynton, who was, I think it was Key 103 at the time, she did an interview with Dominic after I patched it through and stuff. I tweeted Dominic's number out and stuff so people could ring him whilst he was up on the wheel. She did an interview with him at the National Radio Awards or something. She won an award, and the interview with Dominic, 125 foot up in the air, was called a wheel, right, not real, a wheel, because he was on a wheel, British Gangster. And Dominic did the interview up there, said it was the scariest thing he'd ever done. He was scared of heights and everything. Loads of interviews passed and stuff. My battery, yeah, I was taking pictures and videos and stuff. All the pictures on the timeline, on the video 2 down from here, about the big wheel protest, right? You can see the footage yourself, yeah. I filmed them and stuff. My battery was drained, yeah. I was ringing all these news desks, bam, bam, bam. Radio stations pulled up on the gardens. There was people gathering. Police turned up, ambulance turned up, fire turned up, businesses were closed down. The people were stuck in the pod. Now, this is one thing that was a point of conjecture where Dominic was like, they're going to try and use the fact that people on the wheel, right, and arrest me for public nuisance or something, right, or aggravated trespass and public nuisance. Anyway, so Dominic was sat on the axes, right, so Dominic was shouting down, tell the people what the police said, right, he was talking to me. He kept saying, Cody, right, I was on fucking bail at the time for threats to kill, yeah, serious fucking charge. I didn't want the police snatching me out of the fucking crowd, yeah, because it was clear that we'd orchestrated it all, right, and he's like, Cody, tell the people what the police said, right, and probation and all this. He said, put it on YouTube, and I was like, oh my God, stop shouting my name. I've got a grey hoodie on with fucking Cody on the back, yeah, mate. I was like, oh my days. Anyway, so the police turn up, right, and then they put a little containment on, then it pushed it back, then we got moved this side of the wheel, then we got moved to that side, then we was on the back of behind the grey wall, the dirty grey wall in Piccadilly Gardens, right, people standing on the tram tracks, trams were delayed, buses were delayed, the people were stuck in the pods, which we didn't want that, do you know what I mean, because Dom was like, I'm on the axes, tell them to free the people. But he was going to use that against Dominic. Anyway, businesses had to close down, restaurants, hotels on the gardens, because if he fell and stuff, people would see it and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, journalists started turning up, freelance journalists, vloggers, fucking YouTubers. Purple Lachey turned up. Anyone that doesn't know about Purple Lachey, he likes to get his tape measure out and measure people's muscles. Yeah, Purple Lachey's a legend in Manchester, not in Manchester, he's from Liverpool. But he spends a lot of time in Manchester. He goes around with a plastic bag. People have even gone on nights out dressed as Purple Lachey. If you don't know who Purple Lachey is, Google Purple Lachey Liverpool. He's got a thing with men's muscles. He's a gay guy, and he goes around here and wants to tape measure. I think he was barred from like speaking to strangers and trying to like measure their muscles and stuff. Like, big black guy, man. People have literally gone out in fancy dress as Purple Lachey. Purple Lachey was there. It was a star-studded event. So anyway, the media turned up, photographers have turned up, vloggers, YouTubers, fucking local news, national news, radio. It was crazy, man. Trams were delayed. They ended up cancelling buses. Trams were cancelled. Trams were suspended. It was just mental, guys. It was absolutely mental. And we wasn't trying to do that. It wasn't about inconveniencing people, you understand? It was about making a point to the police. And people were like, well, Dominic's attitude and our attitude was, if you're going to record Dominic, we're going to give you something to fucking recall him for. So that's exactly what we did. So we made a nuisance, right? Anyway, my battery was dying. I had to go home to charge my phone, yeah. So Dominic was up there from afternoon, yeah, till like, he must have been up there for about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, till about 10 o'clock at night. Anyway, I've gone home, I've charged my phone, I've gone back to Manchester. Initially it was sunny, then it started to rain. Dominic soldiered it out, yeah. Now, the thing is with Dominic, whilst he was in prison, he got stress-related diabetes, right? And it's impacted his life, and he doesn't keep on top of his diabetes, right? He's like, I don't know if it's type 1 or type 2. He takes insulin and stuff like that proper. So anyway, he didn't take his insulin. He's up on the wheel, right? And then you see the paramedics. I've got back down there. The paramedics have climbed up. I don't know why the fire service didn't go up there. I don't know why. The fire service was there. There was like paramedics in like climbing gear because it was like a first aid situation. He started to feel woozy on top of the fucking big wheel. So they clambered up. They secured him in a harness. They put a hard hat on him. They put a harness around him. And literally, he was, because of his diabetes and stuff, he became sort of like woozy on top of the wheel, you understand? Right, so they strapped him all in and stuff, harnessed him in, right, and he was holding on. There's actually like another video by Joe Goodman, and Dominic's pointing down to the, like, Dominic's up there and he's telling the paramedic like where, like, his family are down there, I've got my sister there, Cody's there, and he's just pointing out, right, above Manchester, in a great mood, right, but I think they give him his insulin shot as well. So he sat there in a little hard hat and a little harness and stuff. They've literally secured him to the wheel because obviously he was refusing to come down. He sat it out. So then I bumped into a journalist from the local paper, and he said, Cody, what time's he coming down? So I belled him. And Dom was like, yeah, he said, I'll come down about 10 o'clock. I've made my point. He said, I'll come down around 10 o'clock. Right? I'm in it for the long haul. I said, it's fucking mad, isn't it? I said, tell me. He said, I've done stupid amounts of interviews. He said, we're on it, we've smashed it. I said, yeah. Anyway, like I said, the police containment was there, fire service, Oldham Street, opposite Piccadilly Gardens. That was like a car park for emergency services. Like I say, ambulances, police, fire. There was no buses allowed down there. The whole gardens was deserted. You just had people stood back behind the wall. People, hundreds. There was probably around 1,000 and about 1,500 people, right, initially, and then it died down, and there was about 1,000, and then it was a couple of hundred, right. Anyway, Dominic, whilst he was up there, they fed him as well. They got him a Burger King. Literally from where Dominic was stood, a stone's throw, there was a Burger King. They had to feed the man, so he got a free Burger King, complimentary of like Burger King or the police or whoever fucking paid for it, right? Which he had whilst he was on top of the wheel. He had to get his blood sugar up and stuff. So I think they got him like a Diet Coke or whatever. He sat on top of the wheel. He's having his food. He's got a great view over Manchester. The big wheel actually tweeted out, we've got a non-paying customer currently sat on the axes of the wheel. That was going viral because people were sharing it. People putting pictures up. Dominic sat there doing his salute and stuff, right? It was fucking crazy. We made the point though, guys. Like I say, the police tried to fuck him over. It was police harassment. Probation wanted to recall him for the last 2 days of his license. So we felt vindicated and justified in what we was doing. Anyway, eventually Dominic decides, you know what, I'm coming down when I want to come down. So he starts to make the climb down and stuff. There was an emergency services because Dominic had a harness on. They had him make sure he's strapped in. The emergency services was coming down in front of, behind Dominic. Yeah, in front of Dominic, like on the ladder. He was first. Dominic was behind him, coming down behind. People are cheering. Some people shouting jump and stuff. Manchester, innit? People say what they want to say. So Dominic's climbing down, and then he was waving to people to the left. He was waving people to the right. I was there, obviously. He came down, and then yeah, it was crazy, man. Dominic actually said when he came down, he was checked over by the paramedics and stuff. They took his hard hat off him and stuff because obviously he'd been up there for 6.5 hours, 7 hours. Took everything off him. He patted his pockets like that, made sure he had his phone and everything like that. And then the police took him by the cuff and just walked him into the back of the ambulance. Now, Dominic said that's the first time I've ever been arrested where they haven't just cuffed me up first. He said they just walked me into the back of the ambulance. I got checked over. They checked my blood sugar. And then they took him to the police station. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Now, when you're recalled, you normally, like I say, you get taken to court and then you're back in prison, right? This didn't happen yet. What they did, right, rather than putting him in prison and then, like I say, for the last 2 days of his license, back in Strangeways, where then when he'd get released in 2 days, he'd be in a, like I say, single cell restriction, have his TV, get out after 2 days, they give him £46 and kick him out the door. Well, they didn't. They took him to Central Park Police Station, which is the main police station in Manchester, and it's up near, like I said, the police headquarters and stuff. It's opposite there on the roundabout, right? They put him in there. They kept him in there for 2 days, right? And then what they did, right, listen to this, guys, for fucking bullshit, right? When they was taking him from the police station, they had to take him to the prison to sign his release papers, right? Even though they kept him in the cop shop, give him an armed escort from Central Park Police Station to Strangeways, right? Which is fucking probably about 1.5 miles, 2 miles max, yeah? Give him an armed escort to the prison, put him in the prison, right? Signed his paperwork, give him his £46, and then he walked out the door. And that was it. He was given bail conditions by the police as well. The police said, like, because obviously they'd arrested him, they said, look, you're not allowed into the city centre of Manchester, you're not allowed on Piccadilly Gardens. Domenyk challenged it. I was actually in London spending time with my family at the time, with my brother and my sister that I found after 27 years. So I was in London. Domenyk went to court, he challenged it, that got lifted. On the back of it, the big wheel remained in Manchester for the time being, and what they did is they put like a big board secured to the bottom half of the ladder, where like you couldn't climb up it because there was no ladder. They just put wood and they secured it and stuff, and that was it. It cost the taxpayer a lot of money. Apparently, the police were like, "Oh, we would never put like cost in front of personal safety and stuff." And the second in command of the Greater Manchester Police, right? I think it's called Nick Adderley, was like, everyone's got the right to a peaceful protest. This wasn't a peaceful protest. It was disruptive. It was illegal. And he said the cost of the taxpayer will be in the tens of the thousands and stuff, and businesses and stuff. A lot of people tried to bring charges, civil matters against Dominic for loss of earnings and stuff like that. They tried to do Dominic, right, for, I think, rather than aggravated trespass, they went for public nuisance. Now, public nuisance carried a much more severe sentence, if I can remember correctly. So the police had him on aggravated trespass, but obviously the police have got a habit where, and not just with Dominic, a lot of people, where they've got him for this crime, but they go for a higher crime. If they would have just gone for an aggravated trespass, Dominic would have had to go guilty. Dominic went not guilty to that, and he went for a higher charge of public nuisance, which carried a much loftier sentence, right? So they went for that. Dominic's legal team fought tooth and nail, right? The charge was then stayed, right? And then it just expired. Like I said, it was stayed. So the fact is, the judge said, because of who Dominic is, you should have gone for aggravated trespass. You had him, right? Because he was well over the fucking, like, the line, right? But you went for a higher thing, which you fell short of, right? And you're just trying to do that because it carries a much loftier sentence. So the police were actually given a bollocking by the judge. The judge stayed the charge. Dominic walked free from court. That was it. It had expired and everything. So all these people that are trying to get like compensation for loss of earnings, places like Bella Italia and fucking shops and Morrison's and stuff like that for loss of earnings, they couldn't get fuck all because he was found not guilty in the end. It was a very interesting day, guys. It went down in Manchester folklore. It was a great day. It was a really funny time. And like I say, we made a point, and there was a peaceful protest. Nobody got injured. Nobody got hurt. And it was just a funny day. And like I say, if you go on YouTube and type in Domenyk Noonan big wheel protest and stuff like that, them videos will come up. And if you look down my timeline, you'll also see my footage and my pictures from the day. You hear Dominic shouting, "Cody, tell the people what the police said," and all that. And I'm like, yeah, stop saying my name. Like I say, made a lot of headlines that day. Funny day. Just another day in the day of Domenyk Noonan. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think about the video. I know I've waffled on. I've tried to go into as much detail as I can. I'm going to leave it there. Like, comment, subscribe. Cody out.